What up, my ninjas? I am Strident, and I'm back with another video, as you can see. I know it's been a while. Things have been really busy around here with work, meaning the 9 to 5, the freelance schedule, and War of the Gods. So, keep watching. You'll be seeing more. I want to give a shout out to my homeboy, Super Dutchman. He's a fairly new subscriber and pretty enthusiastic about, this new Joe Talk idea. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of which, I'm starting up all the changes on the art page on Facebook. So I'm gonna put a link in the description and join me on there, man. Post pictures. We can get into the topics. Post videos, etc., etc. Anyway, I've got a lot of stuff for you, so I guess we should get started, right? So, G.I. Joe Retaliation. You guys know I've had kind of a love-hate relationship with this franchise, with this movie, whatever. Some of the figures are cool, some of the figures suck. The release schedule for the figures has been fucking horrible. The quality control and quality in general of the figures has been hit or miss, depending on the wave and the figure. So, what else could Hasbro have done, you guys are probably asking. What they've done is they've pushed back, and I don't know if some of you have already heard this. I'm trusting if you're big into Joes, you probably have. They pushed back the release schedule for the last 2 or 3 waves of the Retaliation line. And it's weird because the last 2, 3 waves, whatever, they are the most interesting of the bunch. I mean, the figures range from freaking really awesome to just, marginally awesome, but you're getting a lot of stuff that we should have got in the first place. I mean, look at this assortment. It's pretty damn nice. My major, wants are the combat. It's the Cobra Special Forces, essentially. They call him a Cobra Combat Ninja, but just because he's got a balaclava on his face doesn't make him a fucking ninja. And anyone looking at him can see that that is a soldier. It's infantry, you know what I mean? I've been waiting for this guy for a long time, and I assumed, since I had seen pictures of him almost a year and some change in advance when it was supposed to be released, when the movie was supposed to be released the first time, I was like, hey, same thing goes for the combat diver. This guy looks badass. I mean, it's obviously an upgrade to characters like Wetsuit and Deep Six and whatnot from Rise of Cobra, but I mean, look at all the shit he comes with. So I've been waiting for him for a minute. He was one of the major ones, and I still don't know what wave he's showing up in. So I'm assuming he will be one of the boxed figures showing up in the last couple waves. This Roadblock, he's pretty cool. He's more movie accurate than the first one. Everything on his vest is painted black, so it's like, okay. And he doesn't have those huge, stupid holsters. The RZA as Blind Master, he was horrible in the movie, but I want a figure of him because just the idea of a black blind ninja master is awesome to me. Flint, Ultimate Flint, you guys know, you already know, Ultimate Flint was a must-have for me. Being that, I'm so hardcore on Flint, of course he's going to show up in this, in this list. And it's weird, too, because it's just reused parts, but it's still pretty good, Same goes for Ultimate Duke. Very cool looking figure, movie accurate, reused parts from the Joe Trooper, which is my favorite figure in this line. And this Crimson Guard, aka a CG. I want one of these guys. I think they're awesome looking characters. And it's strange, though, that they weren't in the movie, but they get a toy. And then lastly, Jinx. It's crazy. I mean, you think about the amount of characters that got multiple releases and got multiple redesigns, and you think about how they released 2 versions of Jinx for the San Diego Comic-Con. I think it was last year or the year before. It had to be last year. And you think about the one that they are releasing, and you think about the fact that Jinx wore red, and this is their little ode to that costume, and we didn't get that in figure form. It's kind of weird, but, so is Hasbro. This is what they do. And, it's just one of those things that shows you how they're treating us. So supposedly, they're waiting for the release of the actual DVD before they release the actual new set of figures. And I think that's bogus because we've all already waited for this shit. It's one thing for us to have no idea or be really awaiting this whole package, but it's a whole nother thing to botch it and then try so hard to drag out all the anticipation. And I know there's those people out there that have no imagination. They're extremely generic when it comes to buying things. They're talking about, take my money. Yeah, you'll have those people. But for, those of you who don't fall into that category, which I realize these days is a minority, we want more and we don't want it done in such a way. You could have spread out all the releases throughout the life cycle of this film, from the movie release, the initial proposed movie release, to the final release. And that's not what we got. And no one seems to really have an issue with this. And I have an issue with it. You know what I'm saying? I have a big issue with it because by the time they come out, I'm really not going to care that much. I'm one of those people who I've dealt with this with other companies. And at this point, I just want what I want and I'll pay for it when it's available if I feel like it. I was at one point in time really hardcore into DC Universe Classics, but the release schedules and the availability of those figures used to piss me off. And you've seen my collection. I have a decent sized collection. These days with the new 52 stuff, some of it's really cool. That new Hawkman looked really nice, and 2 times I've passed on him, and I'm trying to decide if I should get him. The others, same deal. They look good, but I don't know if I should get them because of availability. I've never seen the new Wonder Woman, and that's probably my favorite of the new designs. I've never seen, I've seen Flash and Batgirl a couple times, but these are just examples of characters that are so popular that we should be seeing them everywhere, and we're not. Movie Master's Superman, haven't seen him yet, or Zod, and I want both of them. And the other girl, I forgot her name. It'll come to me eventually, but I want that crew, and I've yet to see them anywhere. So it's one of those things. Will we get this stuff? It remains to be seen. So, hope you dug the sound effect. Anyway, come on, you gotta let it out when you gotta let it out. So there's this new set of Transformers universe or Transformers generation stuff coming out, and they're redoing Metroplex. And he's supposed to be like 2 feet tall or 3 feet tall, something like that, like humongous, taller than Fortress Maximus, for those of you who don't know what I was talking about. This is insane, especially being that, Hasbro's been so cheap. This is where I get annoyed because I say that they treat their Transformers fans a lot better than they treat their G.I. Joe fans. This assortment had Springer, which was cool, but he's out of scale with the other season 3, G2 characters. But they're doing good stuff for their fans, and it's kind of strange that the team working on G.I. Joe is not necessarily listening to the fans in the same way. Next up, I've been seeing a lot of videos complaining and talking and pointing out all the dumb shit that Xbox has been doing and or Microsoft has been doing with the Xbox One. We all thought it was going to be like the Xbox Infinity or something, but nope. They went with the cheesy ass name Xbox One. Then there's all the talk about the press conference they just recently had, where they spent all this time building up, only to tell people that the Xbox One is essentially a peripheral just for your TV, for people who like to be stuck to their TV, who like to do other things more so than play games. But this thing will have a couple games, I watched some Angry Joe videos, and I was like, preach on, Joe. Everything you said made perfect sense. Blocking used games. So you will pay, I think you're paying, you can't use used games. You can only buy it once. They're forcing people to buy every game for every play. So you can't bring your games over to your friend's house. You remember I talked about this a while ago in one of my random, vids where I was just pointing out stuff that was going on. Also, they were talking about, focusing on things like the NFL and connectivity to, Facebook and YouTube and blah, 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 blah. And not much focus was on games. I watched the Ryosuke video where he pointed out all of this stuff, and his video was explaining that the Xbox One is not for gamers. And I'm like, man, it's funny. I mean, he was so critical. It felt like watching one of my videos when I decided to tear something apart. He had the facts. And this is the thing that I hope and I want to see more on YouTube. And it makes me happy when I do see it. Fanboys can argue all they want. But when the facts are staring them in the face, there's not much they can say. Just by opening their mouth or taking the time to type a comment when all these facts are sitting right there in front of you, it just reinforces how much of an idiot you are. It's just that simple. And YouTube is full of them. I mean, we all know it. You've seen them on my comment section. You've seen them on other people's comment sections. YouTube is full of idiots. So, and the gaming industry is kind of full of idiots as well. And it's kind of unfortunate. And I'm talking about fans more so than developers, because it's the fans' fault that the developers are going in this direction. I mean, when you're really being real about this whole situation, the focus for them on YouTube and social media and television and all this shit is because of the lukewarm responses they get from innovative games. So developers and big companies are trying to make sure that they can solidify definite money coming in. They want a definite thing. I mean, you've seen it with the movie industry. This is why we don't get much new intellectual properties. This is why video games seem to favor the IPs that have been around the longest, that have been phoning it in for the longest and been successful, and they keep on pushing them. And the only person you can blame are the elitist bunch of people that call themselves hardcore gamers that only play what everybody else is playing because it's the most popular thing. Not because the quality of the thing is great, but just because it's the most popular thing. In general, a lot of times, unfortunately, innovation is not met with the same kind of regard or the same kind of reception that, just simply being generic and giving people what they already know they've had and that they like. It's not met the same way. I mean, look at games like Psychonauts and games like what was that one game? Brutal Legend. Innovative. Just about anything that Tim Schafer does is an example of what I'm talking about. Innovative, not the same as what you've been dealing with, but he always gets shat on. And I mean, this has been a reoccurring theme for him. And there are tons of other people out there. Look at Dave Jaffe. Twisted Metal was awesome. But how many people really treated Twisted Metal in the same way that they treated Call of Duty? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things. Every time somebody kind of veers off the rails and gives you some shit that's kind of amazing, but not in the same way that you're used to, we always get this same shit. And here you are, this is the response for it. Xbox One, Microsoft, they're like the king dingling of taking over, I don't want to say taking over, I almost want to say monopolizing, because you've seen them do this with PCs and your operating systems and every program necessary that is almost the backbone of your PC. Especially in the business world, Microsoft is there. You know what I mean? So it doesn't surprise me as much that they're kind of veering away from gaming. The thing that is surprising is that video games is like $1 billion industry, and they're trying to make TV related shit. They're on this multimedia kick, and that's amazing to me. But I have to say that I agreed with everything I've heard regarding this press conference and the Xbox One. Seems like a dumb idea. It seems like they're trying really hard to like bow out of the game industry, and it's weird because Xbox had been leading despite all the flaws. I mean, the 360 had like a 95% fail rate, and it was still the top selling system. I think it was second to the Wii. And these are facts once again. And it's crazy, you know what I'm saying? Like, If anything else failed 95% of the time, it couldn't make it to production, or it'd be pulled from production, I mean. Yet the Xbox had that kind of a fail rate, and it still went on to be the system of choice. I mean, when you go on game trailers, when you go on game or read Game Informer or most review sites, they review the Xbox One first, and they shat on the PS3. PS3 was a reliable system. I had mine. Mine was a launch system. So from what, 2008, I want to say, or 2007, and it only died on me last year. Granted, my Sega Saturn came out in what? It was in the 90s sometime, like 94, 90, no, 96, something like that. And my Saturn it still works. I've only had one Saturn. My Genesis, I have two Genesises, and we got them both one after another. And the original one, the one I got in 91, still works to this day. So, I mean, on one hand, you could say it's kind of bullshit that the system failed at all, but it does wear many hats. And it's not like everything broke. One thing came, the generic thing, was it the soldering melted because the system overheated and it just needed to be resoldered, and that's it. So, and I did it. So there's your sign. So anyway, all in all, what I'm trying to say is it doesn't surprise me as much that this is where the industry is going as far as, Microsoft, because they're in it for the money. After all, this is all about the money. And they don't give a shit about their fans, This is why being a fanboy nowadays, it's pointless, Being a fanboy for one system over the other is kind of stupid because everything is about the money, plain and simple. I mean, there are certain games, for each system that it was created specifically for that system and it runs on that system's hardware and it can't be replicated on the other system. And still, companies have found a way to turn around and do games for both. Konami made Metal Gear 4 on the PS3 hardware. The thing was programmed, ran, practiced, everything, tested. It's a PS3-based game. Yet, they're about to make a collection, another collection that has all the Metal Gears on there, and you're going to be able to get it for both systems. Why? Because it's all about the money. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is an example. They made an accessible Metal Gear game that anyone else can play. You don't have to be a fan of stealth because there is no stealth in the game. It's a quick killing, beat 'em up, destruction type deal, and it's on both systems. When Metal Gear traditionally was a PlayStation exclusive. So it's kind of weird how, the times have changed so much, and a lot of fanboys don't pay attention to this stuff because they've only been playing games for the last 5 years or the last, 8 years or something, as opposed to all of us in our 30s and our 40s that grew up with games and saw them go from the original Sonic the Hedgehog to freaking, I don't know, Rainbow Six or Devil May Cry or whatever. We saw the evolution and we know what's going on and we understand why it's working the way it works. A lot of these fanboys, they don't really get it, and who can blame them? This is the world they live in, as opposed to the world the rest of us saw evolve. So, yeah, it's just funny. It's really weird. And then my homeboy Ryosuke, I have to say, I agree with you like 5 billion%. A lot of people were saying, oh, you're a Sony fanboy or you're a this kind of... No, I'm a Dreamcast fanboy just like you. That was my favorite system. And it's strange that people don't even see that everything that your systems do now, except for probably play Blu-rays, the Dreamcast did back in the day. The Dreamcast was online. The Dreamcast was... there were ways for you to play, for it to be backwards compatible. It could be programmed onto. There's a huge homebrew market for the Dreamcast. It could do 2D. It could do 3D. It could do just about whatever you wanted. Music. The sound on that system was phenomenal. The controller was a little big, but there was an adapter. I think that you could use the old school controllers. I think there was even an adapter you could use the PlayStation controller on your Dreamcast. And, the only problem with the Dreamcast was the lack of third-party support. Sega got a little overzealous and decided to try to take this all on themselves, and it didn't work that well for them. But the system was the best. I loved it. It did fail on me after only about a year and a half of having a system, and I ended up getting another one. But besides that, I can't complain. It didn't run too hot. It didn't freeze up on you very much. I mean, shit, the games that you burn now, they freeze up more than the actual official games. But the Dreamcast was the shit, man. A lot of people slept on it and didn't know and didn't understand. A lot of kids, you started playing games after the Dreamcast was kind of out of the game, so you missed out. But go back and play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the Dreamcast. Go back and play SNK versus Capcom 1 and 2 on the Dreamcast, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. That shit, the system was amazing. And it's definitely one of my favorites. I'm right there with you, Rasuke. Next up, I just recently saw, I've been trying to avoid it, but I just recently saw the trailer for Arkham Origins. I'm kind of getting annoyed at the Arkham before all these things because Batman is an entity that the story revolves around, not Arkham Asylum. But anyway, this shit looks badass. It's apparent to me that the team at Warner Brothers Games or Rocksteady or whatever they are, they know they understand Batman better than anyone, next to maybe Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. Their renditions of the characters work the best. I mean, in some cases they're too bulky in some ways, but they've streamlined them in this one. But like Deathstroke is one of my favorite characters. He's always been. That's why I hate Deadpool so much. And seeing this version, it's like, shit, they finally did it right. Completely. Black Mask is looking awesome in this too. I've never thought about him actually wearing a mask. I always thought his mask was stuck to his face and all that good stuff, because in the comics it was like, I think it was like coffin wood or something, and it somehow got stuck to his face and whatever. But this version of Black Mask is amazing. I like the look. The look of everything in this looks cool. I like that everything is a little cleaner because it's years before what we've recently played. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Really looking forward to it. Okay, and so for the last thing, before I close, I am proposing that we do a little kind of a team activity, back on the Joe community thing. So a lot of us talk about Joes, and a lot of us talk about what we don't like about various lines in the Joe, history. And we all have different favorite Joes. So what we should do, or what I'm proposing, is that we do a little showcase of our favorite Joe and, why they're our favorite Joe. So what I'm proposing is that you get your Joes out, and instead of taking static pictures of them just standing in generic poses, get them moving, get them in action, get them doing shit. You know what I mean? A lot of what makes some of the pictures that I consider kind of whack on the various Joe sites that exist is that people don't have them doing anything. Joes are men of action. We need to see them in action. That would help solidify what it is we like about G.I. Joe. So everybody, for this month, I just want everyone to go ham on images of your Joe in action, fighting Cobras, doing what makes them your favorite character, or Cobras fighting Joes, but I want them in action, doing stuff, showcased, and maybe you can give us a little insight as to why they're your favorite character, after you show us a little bit about, the Joe in action. As you see here, I'm using pictures of Beachhead from my Pursuit of Cobra Beachhead review from like a couple years back. I'm gonna do new images for this jam, so to speak, because I figure I want to get in on this too. So go crazy, be creative, remember the fundamentals of what makes a good image. Your focus needs to be good. Your subject matter, your theme, whatever, it has to be there. Your composition has to be good as well. Don't just take a picture of your toy, So as usual, go crazy. That's really it for me. You guys have been great. Thanks for staying with me this long and seeing what I got to talk about. And peace outside.